Ooh, goody. I'm really pushing the boundaries of the iMac Pro today. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube. Thank you all for tuning in. I've got a bit of a rant today for you, and it's probably overdue. I think in the past I've been more comfortable with the idea of iCloud storage being priced the way it is because I get that Apple wants recurring revenue. Apple cares about services and monthly subscriptions and everything, but how long now has 5 gigabytes been the standard, right? Like, and how different has, like, operating systems take up more space than they used to. Video files, pictures, they're getting more detail. They're getting more depth. Now Apple's thrown in Dolby Vision and all these higher dynamic range stuff. And yet iCloud Plus is included with normal iCloud subscriptions, but it's basically just gives you the little private relay notification all day. That's all it does. But honestly, if the file sizes of things are going up and the iPhone storage configurations of things are going up, I think we need to have this discussion. I think we should talk about how iCloud storage can more fairly be appropriate. And I'm not just talking about making sure Apple doesn't get charged as much. I just think that the idea of jumping from 200 gigs for $3 a month to 2 terabytes for $10 a month, and then if you want anything over 2 terabytes, you basically have to pay for Apple One. Like, how backwards does that sound to y'all? It's like, okay, I'm hearing more and more people that are like just taking a ton of pictures, a ton of videos, and rightfully so. The iPhone has a really, really great camera, and it can record high frame rate, high resolution video. It can take great portrait mode pictures, and all this stuff starts to stack up. So obviously, the longer we have phones, the more of our digital footprint is going to fill up, and it's going to take up more and more space on the cloud as well, where people want to store it. And if file sizes keep growing like they are with Dolby Vision and stuff, there's no point in keeping everything the same when it comes to storage configurations, because you're actively encouraging people to, have a larger digital footprint. And I feel like other cloud services model their storage and prices off of Apple's as well, but like, it doesn't make sense to me to keep the iCloud storage prices the same when our operating systems, our pictures, and our videos and everything we use starts to grow over time. And there's people going over 2 terabytes now, and the only way you can get more than 2 terabytes of iCloud is you also have to sign up for Apple Music and Apple Arcade and Apple TV Plus. So even if you don't plan on utilizing any of those services, that is literally the only option to go over 2 terabytes. Like, that's ridiculous to me. Like, Apple's comfortable with having a single user with 4 terabytes of cloud storage, but they're basically requiring you to get Apple Fitness Plus to get 4 terabytes. Like, how dated is that? Like, why not have something, I don't know, in between 200 gigs and 2 terabytes? Or... And I'm not even saying the pricing has to be that different. I just think that there's probably a lot of people that could live with 1 terabyte and would be willing to pay less than $10 a month, but maybe a tad more than 3. Like, they used to had a 1 terabyte option, but it was like $20 a month. So the iCloud storage has gotten better, to be frank. I mean, in the past it was 1 terabyte maximum. I just feel like now, especially with Apple One allowing you to add supplemental cloud storage, there's clearly some room for improvement. If Apple is comfortable with you going over 2 terabytes, but the only way to do it is to sign up for a bunch of other services. Like, Apple, just let your iCloud storage be your iCloud storage and let your other services be your other services. Yeah, like, they give you more, but you got to pay for it, obviously. So to get 4 terabytes of iCloud storage, you need to buy Apple One Premier, which is another $30 a month on top of the $10 for 2 terabytes. So basically $40 a month gives you 4 terabytes, which is honestly not worth it. Yeah, I'll continue being frank as long as possible. Sorry for the Starlink lag. I'm giving it a hard time today. I already did an EV stream. Now I'm doing a tech stream. Let me see what the chat thinks about this, because I've seen people argue on it in the past. And I remember in years prior being like, they want more services revenue. They want you paying for iCloud and stuff. But now, like, especially with ProRes rumored coming to the 13 Pro. File sizes are going to take up a ton more space, and with iPhone storage configurations getting higher and higher, the 1 terabyte iPhone is rumored, of course. I pay $1 for 50 gigs. Yeah, I wish I could get down to 50 gigs. Simply Pop says 5 gigs is a joke. Yeah, 5 gigs is kind of pitiful. That's like, you can barely do anything with 5 gigs of iCloud storage. That pretty much no one, I think, is able to live with under 5 gigs. I'm not saying it has to be much more, but I think 10 would go over well. Somebody special says, I use the iCloud Plus hide my email a lot, the custom emails. Oh, I got you. Has pretty much eliminated spam mail. That's good. Big Truck Series Review says 4K 60 FPS is a perfect video camera standard. If ever goes to 120 frames a second, then a 1 terabyte and possibly 2 terabyte iPhone will be even more necessary. Oh my God, I knew this was the next inevitable step. He's just been asking for 1 terabyte for years. By the time we get it, he's going to start asking for 2. Ben Rayner says, is there an iPad out there that when you watch a movie you don't get the black bars? If not, will there ever be, you think? Oh, do you mean, will there ever be a 16:9 iPad? No. I think Apple experimented with 16:9 tablets, or at least watch Microsoft try to do 16:9 tablets, and it's not ergonomic. You can get rid of the black bars, but it's a lot harder to use for everyday tablet things like the keyboard. And I believe some of the earlier Surface tablets were 16:9, but it's like 1 step forward, 5 steps back. But no, I think the black bars, you just kind of either live with them or you double tap and let the movie take up the full screen. There's another way to get rid of the black bars. It's just some of the content gets cut off half the time. Ben Fiend says, when iCloud first came out, it had less functionality, no iCloud photos, no messages in the cloud, iCloud Drive, and much more. That's another thing. iCloud Drive we use for our podcast very regularly. Also, messages were not stored in iCloud. And I've also seen when people send you pictures or messages, or not pictures, videos over iMessage, that takes up a crap ton of space in iCloud storage. And back then, you're right, we weren't doing that. So that's another good point to be like, okay, if iCloud is being used for more and more stuff, it makes sense to kind of rearrange these plans, I think, a little bit more. Amazon Photos is unlimited cloud storage. Yeah, that comes with Prime, so you get all the unlimited 2-day shipping and Prime Video and all that. And that's what? I think it's $120 a year? So $10 a month, and the photo storage is unlimited? I personally think Apple should get into that type of business model because pictures obviously are not taking up as much space as videos, but I think that's what accumulates a lot of space and is very difficult for people to like sort through and figure out which pictures they want to keep. Because right now, like, there's probably people using their Apple One Premiere, and before you know it, they're going to be filling up their 4 terabytes. The fact that no part of iCloud gets to be like unlimited, I guess, is what kind of frustrates me. Like, at least with pictures. I can understand not wanting to do unlimited storage with videos, but the fact that Amazon is able to offer unlimited photo storage with a $120 a year membership makes me think that Apple, which the base Apple One price is $15 a month, there's got to be some kind of tier of iCloud that could just say unlimited photos. I'm not saying it has to be $10 a month. It could be 12. It could be 15. Something like that where you just know that your pictures are fine and there's no worrying about how many pictures you take. You know they'll be good. You know they'll be in original quality. And it could be pricey. I'm not saying it has to be cheaper than everyone else because, Amazon has Amazon Web Services, so they own a ton of cloud storage. Apple does not. So I'm not even saying it has to be cheaper than everyone else's. I just think that I would be far more comfortable paying $10 a month or more for iCloud if I knew that it was unlimited. The primary reason I got off of my iCloud 2 terabyte plan and I got down to 200 was, for one, I was like, okay, $7 a month, that stacks up over the years. But the bigger reason was because I knew that this was going to be an inevitable problem. As time goes on, I go on more trips, or I visit more friends and family. I'm going to take more pictures. I'm going to take more videos, and that's going to stack up. And eventually I'm going to hit 2 terabytes, and I'm either going to have to pay for Apple One, which I don't want to do. I'm like, my religion is against paying for Apple One. And I'm joking. But also, I knew that eventually I'm going to fill up iCloud and I'm going to have to sort through all these pictures and videos and figure out which ones I want to keep, which ones I want to store locally, which ones I want to delete. And that whole process is like, well, I could do that later down the road, or I could just do it now and get it down to 200 gigs a month and save money. And my wife has still yet to go through her library, but she wants to go through hers so that we can get down to 50 gigs. Not that we would save a ton of money that way. It's only $2 a month, but still, it's like the idea of it, of like, okay, we're at like most of, like my iCloud photo library is practically empty at this point, but most of our cloud storage is still on my wife's plan. And we're still running out at 200 gigs. And still getting the alert every now and again of like, oh, your cloud storage is full. And I'm like, okay, whether I pay $10 a month for this or $40 a month for this is eventually going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Like, you pay $40 a month for Apple One Premiere and 2 terabytes of iCloud storage. You will eventually fill that up. You're delaying the problem, but the problem will still be there until Apple offers some type of unlimited plan. And then you know that, okay, all my pictures are good for life. Original quality. What do I got to pay for that? I might be far more willing to go over $10 a month. I might be willing to pay $15 a month if it meant that all of my iCloud photos would be stored indefinitely and I wouldn't have a limit on it. You could put a limit on videos. That's fine. I understand why, because they take up way more space. But yeah, I just think that it's so dated as it is right now. I've just been Powen says, I've just been purchasing high-quality SSDs for long-term storage and try to get by with just enough cloud storage. Yeah, I understand why. Chris Norton says, I liked my 256 gig phone. No, iCloud. Did you mean iPhone? I can't tell what you meant there, but do everyone save their maximum photos in any shared album and keep the main library clean, or is it just me? That might be just you, Tech Fox, or however you Tech Foe. I'm sorry. I'm a college dropout, not a high school dropout. That's a total difference. I don't know how to pronounce things. To put that 5 exabyte number in context, to buy that from Amazon Web Services, that's $100 million per month. Holy crap. 5 exabytes. Wow. Somebody special says, here's my 2 cents on the matter. Say there's 1 billion active iPhones out there, being generous with that estimate. Even increasing base storage by 5 gigabytes, that's 5 exabytes of new storage needed. Okay. You sure it's exabytes? Well, it's like they already have... Doesn't that mean they already have 5 exabytes of current storage that everybody's using up? Let's see. I just wish iMessage didn't take up iCloud. It's something no one talks about. Well, that's an option. I mean, you could turn all this stuff off. It's just all of your iMessages will be stored locally on the device. I think that's the fundamental problem. Maybe Apple should get in the cloud service business. I think this might be a growingly increasing problem of like humans with advanced... It's probably an issue that Apple is not paying enough attention to. You know, if we're going to create higher quality videos and higher quality photos, and we're going to store more stuff in the cloud, and we want this ecosystem of products to work really well together with... applications and game data stored in the cloud, and you can have different iCloud Drive now. You can share files between people. We need to consider that the digital footprint of every user is much larger than it used to be, and Apple needs to, I think, focus more on how to accommodate for more storage. If that takes 5 exabytes of extra storage, then they need to jump into that. Okay, 1 billion gigabytes equals 1 exabyte. Okay, so that means that we have at least five exabytes already, plus extra, because iCloud storage tiers are very, very common. This would actually be a good poll for the live stream. I might get into that. Why not just buy a NAS that has a bunch of storage so you don't have to waste money every single month on a subscription? Well, then it becomes a math discussion, because if you get a NAS, you're dropping a bunch of money up front. So how long until that becomes worth it? I also just don't like the idea of having a big server. Like, I already am... The reason I'm a big fan of all-in-one desktops like my iMac Pro is because that's the whole thing. One power cable. Computer, monitor, speakers, it's all one package. And that's why I was never a big fan of like having a tower and a monitor. It consumes more power. You got this stuff on the ground, and I like having a more minimal, layout in my office and trying to keep things more basic. I'd love to get rid of the futon behind me eventually, but it's handy for when we have guests over. But I'm even experimenting with what I want my background to be next year, and I think I want to go cleaner. I want to go more minimal, basically. I like the way that backgrounds look when they don't have as much busy stuff going on behind them. And a NAS involves having a big server that's plugged in, and you have this whole separate computer just for cloud storage, and even that, eventually you'll fill it up. I have no need for a 1 terabyte iPhone, but that doesn't change my opinion of the iCloud stuff, because you can only go so far with local storage. You also have to pay for electricity for the NAS, which in the UK is about as much as paying for cloud storage. Oh, geez. Just looked at some more recent data. There are 1.5 billion active Apple IDs. My goodness. Will you upgrade to Apple Watch Series 7, match with your iPhone 13 Pro Max? Asks Divot. We're already getting off of the iCloud subject. That's okay. I'll ping back subjects. For those new people watching, we have a running theme in the live streams, but you're welcome to ask about other things too, and we'll come back to other subjects later. But I'm unsure, because it sounds like the only difference with the Series 7 is the design. Now, the rumored design sounds really interesting to me, and maybe I need to see it in person, or at least on the website from Apple, because I've seen a lot of concept art of squared off Apple Watches that looks ugly. Like those Apple Watch clones that were floating around the internet, the Series 7 clones. Yeah, that's not the way I like it. And I would like I would like to see it be thinner than those clones and a lot of the concept art I've seen floating around, and I won't know exactly how it looks until it comes out, but it will depend on if I can sell my Series 6 for a decent price, because it sounds like, again, there's no functional differences, there's no new health sensors, there's no, like, practicality-wise, the Series 7 isn't going to do anything your Series 6 doesn't already do. So trying to find a way to justify that other than just it looks cool, it's hard for me. But yeah, it just depends. It also kind of depends on how my channels perform, how many people super chat, how many members we get, that kind of thing. If the channel's performing not so great, then maybe I'll be like, yeah, I'd better just save my cash for now. But if it does really, really well, I'll be like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll reward myself. Would you rather have no Apple devices or have to buy everything maxed out? Ooh, that's tough, man. Jake hitting me with the hard questions. I think I'd rather buy everything maxed out. I'm trying to think if I can afford that. Not like the Mac Pro. If I'm just talking like a Mac maxed out, it doesn't have to be the Mac Pro maxed out, but it means every Apple product I do buy, I have to get the maxed out version of. Yeah, I think I could swing that. It would not be smart, but I think I could afford it. AJ says even Google got rid of the unlimited photos. Well, Google got rid of free unlimited photos and videos, which I thought was weird. I was hoping Google could keep around just unlimited photos at least, because that takes up far less storage than videos. But back when Google was less evil, they let anybody with a Google account upload unlimited photos and videos to Google Photos, and that's what I did. And I still have the bulk of my memories there, because it's still free to this day for all the pictures and videos you uploaded before June 1st of 2021. So I have like 12 years of photos and videos that are still there, and it still doesn't cost me anything. So I still consider it a win for the time they had it. I think they had it for like 6 years. But Amazon and I believe Flickr Pro still offer monthly subscription options for unlimited pictures. They're not a sponsor, and I'm not paying for it myself, but I considered it because I've been looking into alternate cloud storage options. And Flickr Pro, if you pay for it annually, so you got to pay for 12 months at a time, but if you pay for 12 months at a time, it's $5 a month for all pictures, unlimited picture storage. So videos, different story, but pictures as much as you want. And I don't understand why Google couldn't do something like that, or Apple couldn't, because I feel like that's a huge part of our digital footprint, but I don't know. Somebody special super chat. It says, really enjoying the stream. Really interesting pondering iCloud storage options. What would you like to see as a base storage amount? I think just because of how operating systems and how phones are naturally taking up more storage than they used to, a very simple doubling, even if that involves another 5 exabytes. I know the money's up there, but yeah, Google does 15 gigs free. But as who was mentioning earlier, somebody was mentioning earlier that with 1.5 billion users, you'd have to add 5 exabytes of storage if we just doubled iCloud base storage from 5 to 10. But now I'm scared because now I'm like, okay, that's such a big, scary number that maybe Apple can't afford. It's rumored to cost, if Apple used Amazon Web Services, they said that would cost $100 million per month for something that they don't get really anything out of other than people going, okay, I won't fill up my iCloud as easily. If anything, you might get less people paying for iCloud, so you might actually hurt revenue if you increased it. So I suppose from the business side of things, I understand why they're hesitant to do it. I just think that, like, where does it end? If we're never going to offer more than 5, then why offer 5 in the first place? Just make it a flat requirement. Like, is anyone actually able to live off of 5 gigs alone and that's it? I'm going to run a poll here in a second. Carlos Cristobal Ramos says, what about an SD card slot? The day iPhone has it, I will buy one. Yeah, that's not likely. For one, the storage is slower, so you can't write as much stuff to it. And the companies that did have micro SD expansion for iPhones got rid of it. So if everyone else is getting rid of it, then I imagine there's no way Apple's bringing it back. Okay, I'm going to ask what amount of cloud storage do you pay for? This is mostly what amount of cloud storage? I can write. I can do it. This is mostly to pertain to iCloud, but I'll say, what do we start at? 50 gigs, 200 gigs. How many options can I add? You can do this because I see Ben Geskin is saying he just got 100 gigabyte Google Photo storage for €20 a year. That's pretty good. I know they have some annual options. I wish they would have that. Say 2 terabytes or more. And then the last option will be you don't pay. So if you don't pay for cloud storage whatsoever, just write don't pay. I guess I can't. It won't let me do more options than 4. So I'll send the poll out there. Roger the Techie, welcome. Apple has literally no incentive to upgrade their base storage at Amazon Web Services prices. Apple makes huge profits on data plans. I'm sure they do, but okay. Let's ignore the base storage because I think that's, it's safe to say that they won't get much out of that, and it'll cost them hundreds of millions of dollars extra just to increase the base one. Honestly, I think it might be smart for Apple to get into the cloud storage game. Maybe they should do what Amazon's been doing with huge amounts of online storage. But let's just talk about the higher storage configurations for a second. It makes no sense to me that you have to pay for Apple One to get more cloud storage. Like, I don't get that. Like, if someone wants more than 2 terabytes, or even if someone wants more than 200 gigs, like, you have to make that jump from $3 a month to $10 a month, and there's really nothing in between. I feel like there'd be a really, really safe and reasonable place in between that could give you like $5 a month for 500 gigs or a terabyte, somewhere in the middle. I pay for 2 terabyte on iCloud and 2 terabytes on Google One. Wow. So much storage. I guess that's one way to do it, but you can't really combine those two. JB says, paying for Apple One mainly for iCloud storage so my family doesn't have to worry about photos and other media at this point. See, that's like just depressing to me. Like, I don't like this business model. I get why it like financially benefits them, because instead of just saying 4 terabytes is $20 a month, they get to say 4 terabytes is $40 a month because you have to buy Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, Apple Fitness Plus in order to get more than 2 terabytes. Then like, I guess they profit directly off that. I just think it's a shady business model to like force that down people's throats. I don't know. It reminds me of like big carriers like tacking things on that you don't want but you have to keep paying for. Like, I don't like Apple's business model going that direction of like, in order to get this, you also have to get this. There's no way around. Excuse me. There's no way around it. Simon says, take my money. If I want 4 terabytes, let me have it, but I don't want Apple One. Why not? Yeah, like, just make it something you could stack on, you know? Like, if Apple's comfortable with supplemental iCloud storage, why not just build on that current pricing of like, okay, 2 terabytes is $10 a month, so 4 terabytes is $20 a month. 6 terabytes is $30 a month. $40 a month is 8 terabyte, you know, and just so on and so forth as people are using this for more iCloud Drive, like file sharing and that type of thing. And there's a lot of people who don't care at all about Fitness Plus or any of these other services. Definitely not News Plus, my God. Was just thinking, what if Apple started selling Apple Silicon servers, offer those cloud computing storage? Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible idea, to be honest with you. There's a few like business side investments I think Apple would be really smart to get into. Another one is manufacturing. Like Apple keeps getting $6 for 1 terabyte. I also agree that would be good for people who don't, you know, there's a big jump between 10xing your iCloud storage. 200 gigs to 2 terabytes is like a big leap. I feel like it's awkward that there's not something in between that. You need Apple Silicon cloud space, not actual server hardware. Please don't bring back the Xserve. Well, maybe with Apple Silicon, Xserve makes more sense. Let's see. Give me 15 gigs for free and I'll be happy. Well, I know there's a lot of easy ways for Apple to just make everyone happy, but I think the criticism is more justified on the higher storage configurations because Apple One has shown us that Apple is definitely comfortable with people having more than 2 terabytes on one account. It's just that you have to bundle in all these other crappy services that a lot of people don't want. And the fact that they've spent so much attention on Apple One and all these other services and their annual options and their monthly options and, you know, all of the services we know about now, and yet they haven't devoted any attention to the storage options. Like, they've just kind of ignored all that and just said, like, it's fine the way it is. Yeah, after $3 a month, you got to 10x and go straight to 2 terabytes. If you want more than 2 terabytes, you got to buy some other plan that's separate but also includes supplemental storage. Like, I don't think the business model is getting much attention, but think of all the scandals Apple's been caught with when it comes to manufacturing, of like, you know, companies they using inadequate or illegal labor or pushing people too far, or, you know, if they wanted to lower their margins on things, if they started building their own factories and their own manufacturing lines and they could make them all eco-friendly and safer and have a better working environment than Foxconn. It could still be in China, but, you know, just have more control over the manufacturing line rather than outsourcing everything. Let's see. Stupid hair in my mouth. Ew, gross. Okay. Thanks for recommending Apple Certified Refurbished. I bought a 10.5-inch iPad Pro for my mom, and she's very happy. Oh, great. I'm loving to hear that. I love that Certified Refurbished has saved people countless dollars. Colin Chan, thank you for the super chat. Watch Mac Address's video on this. It's interesting. I'm sure I'm getting the gist of it through the chat of, like, basically if Apple wanted to increase everyone's base storage to 15 gigs, it would cost them $200 million a month, and people would, if anything, stop paying for iCloud storage. So they're financially would perform worse. They would have less revenue, and they would have to spend far more money. So there's very little incentive for them to change the base storage plan, but the higher tier storages, I do think there's not that much reason to not upgrade them. The main problem is that nothing has changed in storage technology. Hard drive costs just as much as they have for a while, so costs have not gone down to increase free storage. I don't think that's true. I thought getting SSDs in your Mac that went up to 8 terabytes used to be like, insane amount of price, and now it's come down to a reasonable amount. I think I've seen the price of SSDs drop pretty substantially in the past 5 years. So I do think that the core technology of storage has gotten cheaper, but the iCloud storage prices hasn't. It's remained mostly the same. As a product manager, I can confirm that pricing is hard. Apple services today are far from perfect, but we've come a long way from mobile me. That's true. We've come a long way. I just think that it's time for some updates in this department, because it's been quite a long time where they've done literally nothing with iCloud. Hard drives have good bigger capacity. Yeah, I'm sure they've gotten much bigger. They should let user pay iCloud yearly. It would be awesome. That I agree as well, but there might not be much incentive for Apple, just because they probably know that the majority of the people who pay for iCloud storage pay for it for long periods of time. They don't get it monthly just for 1 month and then cancel it the next. It's like, most of the people that pay for iCloud pay for it for years at a time. So if they offered a discounted rate when you paid annually, then they'd probably just end up losing a ton of money on that, because they know they can charge you a higher amount if you just do it monthly anyway. But yeah. Thoughts on the possible hike for iPhone 13? I'm having a feeling that if there is a price hike, it will only be on the Pros, and that the 13 and 13 mini won't get a price hike, just because they were already price hiked last year. At least the regular 12 was. The mini was not, but that's because there was no mini before that. But it was still a bit it was still a bit higher than people were anticipating, and the 12 mini obviously didn't sell very well. So giving a price hike to the 13 mini is kind of like a death wish. It's like you're asking for it to flop. But I think everybody who's buying a Pro iPhone is probably going to buy it, even if it's at $100 more than we thought. If the 13 Pro is $1,100 and the Pro Max is $1,200, I think everybody who wanted it 120 hertz, or everyone who wanted the upgraded cameras, I don't think that'll stop them. That demographic is kind of sold on all the changes coming. Let's see. I think the price hike will be for the extra storage options. Maybe. I mean, if there's a 1 terabyte iPhone, yeah, you should expect that one to cost more than the 512 gig iPhone 12, which makes sense. The little chip should cost more. SSDs have gotten cheaper, not hard drives. Mass storage is usually done on hard drives, not SSDs. Those cost too much. Oh, I see. Well, even that, I don't know. I just see them. I still see the prices drop quite a bit. Let's see. I don't know if this has been said already, but that free 5 gigs of iCloud was mainly meant for backups, which was the main purpose of iCloud at the time it was introduced. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I think I agree. Like, iCloud 5 gigs of free storage was designed for a very different world. It's designed for a very different time where we weren't putting messages and tons of photos and videos in the cloud, and now we're using it for so much more that it's just kind of ridiculous. You know what? I'll take a hot take on this one. You guys might not like this, but I'm willing to go as far as to say I will take them dropping the 5 gig of free to basically nothing. Like, you can use iCloud storage for basic, like, one-time backups or one-time transfers when you're moving to a new device, but that's it. If that meant that we got better rates on all of our higher tier storage options. So like what someone was pitching in the chat just now, e-uploads, 100 gigs for $1 a month, 300 gigs for $3 a month, 1 terabyte for $5 a month, and 3 terabytes for $10 a month. Like, if we had better rates, I think the loss of the 5 gigs for free would be worth it. It's still probably going to cost way more, but if the storage options were more fair and increased their diversity so that you could go higher than 2 terabytes easily or get something in between 200 and 2 terabytes, I'll take the loss of 5 gigs for free. They allow temporary increase to migrate your iPhone to a new one for free. Yeah, that's what I mean. For the basic transitions like that, that's fine. Let's see. Waiting for your review on Fold and Flip. They're already out. I dropped them last year. They're called Galaxy Z Fold 2 review. Z Fold 3 is it's the same thing. Same old garbage. Just kidding. It's not garbage. Right now I get by with using just the 4 gigs of the 5 gig free storage, but I intend to jump in at $3 a month level once iCloud Plus comes out because I intend to start getting some cameras. Yeah, iCloud Plus is already out. I'm not sure what you're waiting for. I'm in the UK and I used iCloud for a few months. I used to fill up my iCloud. Yeah, me too. If I use 400 gigabytes, what do I choose in the poll? I guess whatever's closest to. The free iCloud backups for moving to a new device is basically happening in iOS 15. Yeah, that's what I heard as well. What if Apple got rid of different storage options and the only way to buy more storage is to pay for iCloud? What do you mean? Oh, like local storage? Yeah, I don't think that's going to go over well because there's just so many people with inadequate internet coverage. Maybe if everybody was able to get gigabit, the average speed of internet everywhere was better. I could see them doing that. But I also think that Apple probably profits a lot on the higher storage configurations. Like it does not cost Apple another $150 to add 256 gigs or 512 gigs to your iPhone. It probably costs them between $5 and $20 to just double the storage of the iPhone. But on those higher tiers, the margins are much higher, so they offset the margins of the lower tier. So basically, they get more money off of you through offering different storage configurations. Should be 25 gigs free and an option to choose 1 terabyte. Well, it's very easy to just ignore what it costs the business and say that everyone should get this for free until we realized how much it costs for that. You know, like we know that basically with 1.5 billion active Apple IDs, it's going to be an extra exabyte for every gig you add to the free storage. So if Zach, if you're saying it should be 25 gigs for free, that would be 19 exabytes of cloud storage they would have to add. And if 5 is $100 million per month for them to use Amazon Web Cloud Storage, then that would be like $400 million or something around $300 or $400 million a month on top of what they're already doing for basically no real payoff. They don't get anything out of raising the cloud storage. Like there's no financial benefit to them for upping it other than just giving people more peace of mind. I don't know if that many people would consider switching to iOS just for more free cloud storage, but man, it'd be worth a shot because I agree. If we could up that free storage option, that would be so much more comfortable and so much easier for people, but it's just not feasible anymore. Josh Robinson says, as more and more people hit the 2 terabyte limit, what do you think Apple's response is going to be? Make a 4 terabyte option? How much do you think they would charge? Well, right now the 4 terabyte option is Apple One. For those who don't know, if you want more than 2 terabytes of storage, you can get iCloud, and then Apple One will provide you the supplemental storage on top of that. So, excuse me. Oh man, I don't know. I got something stuck in my throat. We need something that's not just pay for more Apple One, because right now going from 2 terabytes to 4 terabytes is a 300% jump for 100% more storage. So I agree that they as more people do hit 2 terabytes, they need to find something else that people could do, either a 3 terabyte or 4 terabyte exclusive plan that doesn't require you to get Apple News Plus, because that's just, I don't know. It's just people want to store their pictures and videos and they want to have access to them. And I understand why people want to have them in a simple integrated amount that stays within their products that they can access on their iPad, their iPhone and all that, their Apple TV. And I know I'm getting all choked up about this. People just want to preserve their memories, and trying to lock people's memories behind a door and saying, we won't let you keep storing stuff here until you start paying for TV Plus and News Plus and Fitness Plus. Like, that's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think it's logical, and I don't think it's right. So that's why I think even if the free storage has to stay at 5 gigs, then we need to at least rearrange the paid tiers. Google gave everyone unlimited cloud storage for photos for 5 years. I assume Google only stopped because they crushed most competing cloud storage services, but they could have continued. Well, Google gives away a lot of things. Like, you know, in a way, they still offer unlimited video storage through YouTube. You know, you can upload as much 8K HDR 60 frames a second videos to YouTube, and there's no price. You don't have to pay for that hosting, and they'll store it forever, seemingly. I mean, they might change their policy, but it basically costs nothing to put your content on YouTube, and that is most of the time, from what I've heard, operating at a loss. YouTube is not super profitable, which is why when they do weird things like, you know, put extra ad breaks in videos, or they put 2 ads before a video begins, or they start monetizing channels that don't qualify to be monetized and just take all the revenue they get. Like, I kind of get it because, you know, I appreciate YouTube and I'm glad that this is a platform we can use, but also I don't want them to lose so much money that Google starts thinking it's not worth it anymore. And I also think we should keep our expectations in check that it's very possible one day it might not be unlimited hosting. One day they might start saying we're not going to let you upload more than 1080p videos on YouTube channels unless you're monetized, or unless you have a certain subscriber count. If you don't exceed a certain subscriber count, then you can't upload 4K at 60 this many times a month, or there's a certain number of gigs you can upload to your channel. Google burns a ton of cash. The Google gets pretty much all of their money through search and advertising and what links show up when you search certain things. Google's very profitable. YouTube is not. Those are two different things. Google owns YouTube, but the service itself would not be what it is today if it weren't for Google. If YouTube was broken off in its own separate company, it would probably go bankrupt within a couple of years. But Google likes having access to YouTube because they get basically a monopoly on video content and tons of different coverage of questions and things that people Google can be brought up through YouTube. You know, that's the go-to site for tutorials and also just social media for, you know, different subgenres. It's kind of mind-boggling how large YouTube is, but YouTube does compress the video a lot, but still, I'm sure it's not taking up low amounts of storage. I'm sure I'm adding probably dozens of gigs to Google's servers every month through my job. Apple's quite expensive with their storage tiers. iPhones, Macs, and iPads, and iCloud. It'd be nice if they priced the tiers a bit more sane and also just double the tiers altogether. Right. I don't know if doubling is as logical. I just see the way it's laid out now is backwards. I think the having to get Apple One after 2 terabytes thing really does bug me, because it's very easy for us to sit back and say they should double it. But when you think about, okay, that's going to cost them like $500 million a month to double, it's like, okay. So they get nothing out of that. If anything, they will lose people because people will downgrade their storage options. And also they will have to pay hundreds of $1,000,000 extra. But yeah, I just don't think it makes sense to lock certain storage options behind other services that people don't want. YouTube makes a lot of money. There's a lot of ads in YouTube videos. Yeah, the revenue, there's a lot of revenue generated. That doesn't mean there's a lot of profit generated. You can bring in a ton of money and still be at a net loss. That's why I do 200 gigs plus Apple One Family for another 200 gigs. Well, if you plan on using the Apple One services, I guess that's fine. But if not, it's still technically cheaper to just get iCloud. Let's see. I bought a 512 gig 12 Pro Max for messages and photos, even though I use Google Photos. My messages I liked backed up. Messages take about 60 gigs, so I have to pay $299. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, you can turn that off. I know it's optional, but yeah, people I think are just realizing how important cloud services are for them for keeping stuff in sync across the ecosystem. If this is going to be a continued big advantage for Apple, I think it makes more sense for them to get into this business, find ways of getting that price down. I'm thinking about just getting a higher storage configuration to be able to hold on to it for years with room to spare. Yeah, I understand the longevity argument. That's just why I would really, really prefer an unlimited photo storage thing, because that's what other companies are doing. Let's see. Do you think there will ever be a serious competitor to YouTube? From what I've discovered, it's very difficult to get people to switch to platforms, to a different platform, even if that platform is arguably better in many ways. Like, I tried for over 3 years to move everybody over to Twitch because I thought that it was better at live streaming than YouTube was. And I still do believe that in many ways. Twitch is better for us on the creative side, and it's also better for viewers in certain ways. But no matter how much I promoted it, or no matter how much I tried to get people over there, a lot of people just didn't bother. It's an app they're not used to. It's a service they're not comfortable with, and they just want everything content-wise to be in the YouTube app, and that's it. And they don't want to have to learn another app. They don't want to have to know another account, another email, another password. So it's very, very difficult to come up against pre-existing platforms, especially big ones, and just present an alternative. Even if the alternative is better, you have a very hard time getting people to move over. Most of the time, big companies struggle to get big social media platforms they design off the ground. Like Microsoft, think of how much money they have and how much time they put into Mixer. And from what I heard from the people that went over onto Mixer, they really liked it. They thought it was great for streamers. They thought it was a great community. And I have a few friends that streamed on Mixer, and they moved off of Twitch, and they really liked it there, and they met a ton of people, and their channel did great, and they were staying there. And then Microsoft's like, well, we're losing too much money. This ain't working. So they canceled Mixer, and they were paying for contracts, with Ninja and I'm sure others, big streamers that they were paying huge amounts of money. Come on, Starlink, you can do this. You can stabilize. No, come on. I believe in you. There you go. Come on, Dishy McFlatface, you can do it. Okay, there you go. So what I was saying... Rip Starlink. Oof. We back? Okay. Wondering if OBS is different. You shouldn't have called it McFlatface. That's its name. I didn't name it. SpaceX did. Okay, it's bouncing back. Should be good now. I see a stable connection. Wonder if OBS did something different, because it did the same thing while I was on EV streaming. It's like it drops the connection and then it has to like reboot, and once it reboots, it's fine. Anyway, the subject I was on before I was so rudely interrupted by Starlink Beta was Mixer dropped a ton of money on exclusive streamers and big streamers on other platforms to move over, and it didn't work. So you need someone with access to massive amounts of storage like Google does, because you would want a place where people can host their content for free and also feel incentivized that they're going to make money through it. And you'd need to do some things objectively better than YouTube, so people see advantages or better CPMs or whatever. And you could make the case that, like, hey, you're going to make more money over on this platform. And like, even then, basically, I think my answer is no. I don't. After a few years of seeing other major companies try, Amazon owns Twitch, and they really tried to push that as an alternative platform, and they started pushing the edited content where you could upload videos just like you can on YouTube, and it's just a different community overall. It's just from the ground up. It's just a different genre. It's more of the emphasis on gaming stuff and all that. So, yeah, I don't think so. I wish there was, because there's a lot of bad decisions I think YouTube makes that are very avoidable, and there's a lot of mistakes that I see Google make with them, and there's so much I wish they could do differently on YouTube, but There's like they're too big to fail, I think is what it is. There's so many people comfortable here, and there's such a large community of creators that trying to feasibly make an alternative site that would get a bunch of people to switch, it would have to be really, really good, unless it's just a fundamentally different type of platform. I wouldn't really consider TikTok a YouTube alternative. It's another giant, very popular video app, video service, but it's very different types of content, and it's all more short form, and monetization is not as clear, whereas as it is on YouTube. And I don't know. I just think it serves a different market. I don't think it really eats into YouTube very much. It's more supplemental. I kind of want to see Apple's take on a YouTube-like platform, though. Yeah, I do too. I'm not saying this to say I wouldn't want other companies to try. I would love for some other companies to do their best to create a YouTube alternative, because you want to talk about monopolies. I think YouTube is a much bigger monopoly than the iOS App Store. I think that has the potential. I mean, iOS, Android, what have you, it's like the biggest video platform site on the planet, and Google has complete control over it, and nothing really comes close to touching it. Nothing else can compete. Instagram tried with IGTV, but that didn't really go as planned, I think. So you just have this giant app with this giant network of channels, and the idea of something competing with it is difficult. Regular YouTube also needs to face competition and be forced to improve. I agree. That would be lovely, but I don't know how anyone can threaten them. I don't know how. I don't think a third company is needed, but I would like to see YouTube gaming become more of a Twitch competitor so that Twitch can actually be forced to improve. I think it has. YouTube gaming's been pretty successful so far, at least. Or not the separate app or whatever, but there's just a lot of channels that do gaming stuff on YouTube, and I heard that several Twitch people from Twitch moved over to YouTube and had success with it. But it is competing with Twitch, I'd say. Would you say Google is a monopoly, considering they have a massive control over search, mobile OS, video sharing, YouTube, and other markets? Yeah, I don't know why Apple gets accused of being a monopoly more regularly, frankly, because I think what Google did with Google Photos was much more anti-competitive than I've ever seen anything Apple do. Everything Apple does is very just like, we want it to be a certain way, and you can take it or leave it. And Apple has a very set in their ways view of things, of like, if you want apps on our app store, if you want to run software on our phones, it has to go through our checklist. So they have a big emphasis on control, but I don't see that as anti-competitive. It's just a style, and it's proven to be a successful style. It's a business approach that's worked out for them. It's like, okay, we want a secure, reliable market of apps. We don't want to allow alt stores, because that could allow for malware and more scams, and we don't want that to happen. We want people to feel more comfortable spending money on the App Store, because they know they're not going to get scammed or get any viruses and that type of thing. But Google offered Google Photos unlimited video and photo storage, which I think the argument can easily be made that a ton of cloud storage companies out there couldn't compete with. There was probably a ton that were like, well, we can't compete with free. You can put all your photos and videos on there at no cost. How are we going to stay relevant? So they went bankrupt, or they went out of business, or maybe even big companies just didn't even bother offering very many competitive cloud storage options, because they were like, well, Google's is the cheapest, Google's is the best, we can't compete with that. And once everyone else was gone, once everyone else was bankrupt, and once everyone, including myself, put all of their photos and videos on Google Photos because it was free, now they get rid of unlimited storage. Now they say, actually, moving forward, it's going to cost you. If you want to have photos and videos, we're going to charge rates just like everybody else does. To me, that's anti-competitive. You lower your rates so everyone else can't compete, and then when everyone else is gone, you jack up your rates again. I don't see Apple doing that. That's not what I see. I think Apple just likes to have control over their products so that it's better for the customer. It doesn't give the customers much freedom, but Apple's, I think, more so about just like, we don't want our customers to have to think about which app store they're using, or if they're app is forwarding them to a dangerous payment service or that type of thing. They don't want to think about that. They just want it to work and work reliably, and the customer doesn't have to think about anything. And you can choose to not buy an iPhone. iOS is not the most popular operating system, which is another reason I have a hard time saying, how is it a monopoly? It's less than half of the world's market share of smartphones. So you still have the option to not buy an iPhone. It's like there's a lot of people that don't buy iPhones, basically, is what I'm trying to say. That's not a crazy thing to imagine. Whereas trying to make a video platform, trying to become someone that, edits videos and puts them online and makes a living at that, can you do that anywhere else but YouTube? It's a lot harder, I'd say. I think it's a lot more difficult. There's plenty of decent alternatives to iPhones, though. Are there a lot of decent alternatives to YouTube? Or are there a lot of decent alternatives to Google search? They're pretty, DuckDuckGo is decent, but disagree with you in the App Store. The iPhone will always come loaded with the App Store, but that shouldn't stop someone who wants to install another App Store. Why is it wrong to have an option? Options that can be abused can lead to easier malware / scams within the App Store. Again, like there's no proof that offering an alt store allows you to retain the same security, because all the platforms that offer alt stores don't have as much success in the financial space. Like, while iOS is not the majority market share, it accounts for the majority of App Store revenue. So if anything, we have proof that when you don't offer alt stores and when you don't have side loading, customers are more willing to spend more money. They feel more comfortable spending more because they know what they're going to get, and they know that the apps that they want or the money they spend is being secured and processed all through Apple. So there's less danger involved. It's not just why not have an option? It's like, well, what does this option allow for? If you allow people to download these alternative stores or these alternative apps and sideload them, then we're going to put links everywhere, and there's going to be more ads for things that say, oh, just get this app on your phone, and then you can get into the phone and make it easier to spy on people or make it easier to promote ransomware. Like, again, this would be a different circumstance if we had proof that offering alt stores and sideloading apps resulted in more financial success for the app community, which is ultimately, I think, what we want, right? Like, there's whole businesses that build their whole company around apps that they provide and services that they have on Android and iOS, and there's whole industries that have been built just around the app market, and whole companies can be built by that. Now, have we seen that the apps and the platforms that offer alt stores and sideloading, do they see more spending? Which is what you want. You want a big consumer group that spends money. That way you can have a company. That way you can have an industry. I haven't seen it. So far, Apple's method seems to be what makes people the most comfortable spending. And I understand that frustration, because I thought Twitch was better than YouTube streaming. I thought, like, it has free ways for people to support me. It's more transparent. It's easier for me as a streamer. But people didn't spend as much on donations. Not as many people wanted to watch it, which results in less ad revenue. So at the end of the day, I was like, well, it doesn't even matter if I think Twitch is better. Financially, it makes more sense for me to stream on YouTube, because that's what more people are comfortable with, and that's what more people spend money on Super Chats or becoming members, supporting me. The cut's worse. It's harder for me as a streamer to use YouTube than Twitch. It's less transparent, in my opinion, the Super Chats and the memberships, but it results in more overall success. And I think developers like Epic or whoever need to understand that, of like, okay, you might not like the system put in place, but this system works. And if you don't have that system put in place, it's proven to not work as well. Yeah, people do it with the App Store, but gaming consoles, they don't care. Yeah, I do find that funny. It's like the exact same story with game consoles, but no one bats an eye. James says, I made a lot of money removing viruses. Good for you. I hope you continue to. I once worked solely as a PC virus removal person. I'm all for things that limit/eliminate viruses. Yeah, me too. I think those should be abandoned. I mean, I wish we could get rid of those entirely. Marngel says, agree with this take. Having a lot of control over the product and user experience doesn't equal monopoly, except for repair shops. Apple doesn't have as much control as you think. Well, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms, but sideloading apps basically gives more power to already huge app developers and circumvent Apple's App Store policies. That would result in a worse experience for average users trying to download apps. That's how I think about it as well. I mean, like, if everybody could bypass Apple Store policies, I think everyone would make their app sideloadable because they just think they can make their money that way. Then you have this, you're going to have some other dominant alt store that comes around with super cheap rates, but probably lower standards, and that results in there being more viruses, more malware, more scam apps, and apps that get promoted easily by bots. And because they don't have the same money and resources as Apple, they don't get flagged or taken down as quickly. So again, I'll believe that it's better if there's proof of it working, and I so far have not seen it work elsewhere. Basically, everyone's saying that it would be better if we allowed alt stores and sideloading is working on a speculative theory. They're saying, I bet it would. Do you have proof that it works better? No, I just think it would. Apple has a monopoly on the App Store. Yeah, and Walmart has a monopoly on Walmart. Yeah, that's always what made me laugh, too. It's like having a monopoly on your market. It doesn't make sense. Game consoles are single-purpose machines versus your phone is a multi-purpose computer. I think the crux of this whole debate is, do you own your phone after you've bought it or not? You do own it. That doesn't mean you own the rights to all of its software. It's the same thing with music. You can buy an album. That doesn't mean you can distribute it and make money off of it. There's different to, you don't own the licensing software. No, you own the hardware. But hot take, consoles deserves to be more open for sideloading since many people rely on phone and gaming consoles are just a nice to have thing at best. Well, there's probably a reason they don't do it. I think it's for security, privacy, and likely to secure their revenues. I don't think game consoles are single-purpose machines. I mean, they're less purposeful, but you use them for media. You can look at pictures on them now. I mean, you can play games on them. That's why they're called consoles. It's because they do more than just one thing. Let's see. The problem is the older generation just clicking on too much random links and downloads. Sideloading would be a pain in the butt for me to deal with my parents' phones. I have their devices locked down. Yeah, I think that us in the tech community think it's really easy to avoid the scams and avoid the viruses, but it's not as simple for the everyday customer. You know, if it was that easy to sideload apps, you could put ads in websites that are really easy for someone to get distracted by. You do own it, but that doesn't mean you own the services. Right, exactly. And if you don't like that you can't sideload or do alt stores on your iPhone, just don't buy an iPhone. I see it as that simple. I don't think the argument of, well, I can't buy anything but an iPhone works as well as the argument of like, well, just don't use YouTube. That doesn't really work. For people who are like complaining about YouTube ad revenue or people complaining about how YouTube site works, it's like, okay, move to a different streaming service or a video platform service. It's like, there's not much else you can do. Let's see. Console hardware sales is barely profitable. If Sony didn't also sell games, PlayStation would have failed. Yeah, I've heard that argument as well, but I don't think it makes sense. I've heard the claim of like, okay, well, because game consoles aren't profitable, it's okay for them to have a lockdown, secure 30% cut on all game revenue. But Apple's profitable elsewhere, so they shouldn't have a 30% cut. No, that doesn't make sense to me either because, okay, let's assume Apple is super profitable with their hardware, which they are. So therefore, they don't care about having much services revenue through the App Store. Now Apple can lower their rates to lower than everybody else because they have a profit source that no one else does, which is iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Now that's kind of anti-competitive because Apple can keep their, like Spotify is mad at Apple Music for this exact same reason. Spotify has a 30% cut if they wanted to do premium through the app, whereas Apple Music doesn't have to worry about that. so they can offer Apple Music for cheaper. You do the same thing. Imagine if Google was like, okay, this is how it is now. The Play Store, if you want to make money through the Play Store, it's a 30% revenue cut from Google. So Apple says, actually, you know what? We've decided that because we're so profitable from hardware, we're just going to lower our revenue cut from the App Store. Now it's lower than Google. So now all of our app developers and all of our programmers and stuff and all of our companies, they have much big incentive to build their apps on the App Store because the revenue cut is lower. Can anybody else in the industry match that revenue cut? No, because they're not selling iPhones. So they don't have as much profit. So we're going to complain that it's unfair no matter what. Whether it's 30% or it's 0%, people are going to be like, well, no one else can compete with 0%. Yeah, like, I don't agree. Profitable or not, that should not determine if you can sideload. Just because it's like, well, we've decided because you're more profitable, you don't get as big a revenue cut. It's like, okay, then Apple will just start selling their iPhones at a loss? Would that change your mind? No. Everyone would still be mad, even if iPhones were not profitable. I think both Apple and game consoles should be able to be locked down. Well, overall, I'm more in favor of the company doing what they deem is best for them. Like, if Apple wanted to allow alt stores or side loading for whatever reason, I support that decision. Or if PlayStation or Xbox, they were like, we decided to lower our revenue cut. Like, I think the decision should be up to them. The debate really is coming down to, should a government entity with a law come forward and say this business does not have the right to charge this revenue cut for their app store or their hardware? Should we have a government come in to Apple and say, you must allow an alternative app store to be installed on your product? It's like, outside of Apple's control, should a government come in and say, Epic wants a 30% cut of Fortnite revenue? I personally don't think so. You're welcome to disagree, but I don't think a government needs to be involved there. If Apple decides they want to allow that, that's on them. I just think we have definitive evidence of a more locked down app store and a more locked down OS being more financially successful than an open one. Yeah, like, I'm waiting. I'll let you know when I see one. Christopher Brack says, sideloading is technically already possible under certain circumstances, i.e. internal company apps, but there's a whole signed certificate thingy that goes through Apple. Oh, yeah, I know. It's a technicality. Can you keep doing more 4 to 5 minute tech vids? I feel that the attention span is a good amount of time. Yeah, people seem to like that more when I do the shorter videos, and it's less work for me. So, yeah, I'll do shorter videos if that's what people want. If you don't like something a company does, use somebody else. Profits will determine what a company does. Thank you, Simon. I feel that way as well. If there was... Okay, this probably is a good conclusion to the subject, honestly. We've strayed away from the iCloud storage subject a bit, but it does tie along with the idea of monopolies and when does a company have too much power versus when do they not. Basically, if there was a feature, if there was a business model that was beneficial to everyday consumers or a large enough number of average consumers, then one of these big tech companies or a big tech company would be doing it and offering it as an advantage over the others. If none of them are doing it, it might be because there's not a huge advantage, right? Like, if there was truth that allowing alt stores and allowing side loading resulted in much better financial success and more people spending money and having a more successful economy and industry of third-party apps available, if that was true, someone would be doing it. And someone would be bragging about how we can do it and they can't. And maybe Google does it to a certain extent, but does it result in more money spent? No. Let's see. I think it would be cool if Apple allowed side loading as a tech-savvy person, but I don't think a government should come in and force them to. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could get by with it fine. I mean, if I was the president or something, or if I was Apple's CEO, I would say, well, I don't think the side loading or the alt stores is going to help very much, so I'm not going to allow it. But if they just decided one day we feel like allowing it now, I would still probably just do everything through the App Store, and I would just not use any side loading apps. I wouldn't use any alt stores, and I'd just be like, yeah, that's not for me. I'll just keep it closed down because that's the way I like it. Exactly. Tech enthusiasts don't define all consumers. Yeah, I don't think average consumers care about side loading. They do care about getting scammed or vaporware, or not vaporware, scamware or malware. They're worried about that type of thing, but they haven't had to with iOS because it's pretty locked down, and Apple does a decent job keeping it secure. Do Android users even use side loading themselves? I feel like the average users do not. The only people I know who even know the term side loading are somewhat tech oriented. I've never met like an average consumer, like, you know, like a 30 to 40-year-old adult that doesn't watch tech video, like a normal person that just does side load. Like, I don't know. Apple should take 0% for anything sold through an app. The app sure charge them a fee for selling the app download, but anything is the app Apple didn't make. It's just a tunnel. The difference is, would people be shopping there? Would people be buying there if it wasn't on the App Store? I think that's what the debate is about. Like, think of it more of like a Walmart. You know, I could come in. Let's, for example, here's kind of a good example. Think of Walmart, the facility, as the App Store, iOS App Store. If I bring in a bunch of birdhouses that I really like to make, and I bought the wood, I bought the paint, I put in the time, and I built all these birdhouses, and I designed them. Walmart didn't help me build these birdhouses at all. And I take a big box of birdhouses, and I go inside Walmart and set up a stand and say, you know, buy your birdhouses here for $4 a piece. Do you think Walmart is going to be okay with that? Or do you think Walmart's going to be like, sir, this is our store? You know, because Walmart's a very popular establishment. They have a ton of people coming there every day shopping around for products. So if I want my birdhouses in a Walmart, I'm going to have to submit it to them. They'll put it on, if they approve of it, they'll put it on their shelves, and then I get a piece of the revenue, but Walmart's going to take a cut. Now, will I make more money even after Walmart takes the cut versus if I tried to go somewhere else? I'll try to find a nice, cheap rental commercial space downtown and put Drew's bird boxes up on the wall and put up bird boxes, and now I've paid for this establishment. I own it all in all. Will I make more money that way, or will I make more money putting it on Walmart's shelves where they'll take a cut, but far more people are probably going to see it? Yeah, it's like that's basically the debate. So I could make that argument of like, why does Walmart want to cut? They didn't help me build this. I built these myself. It's like, well, you have a very large, just like Apple with the App Store, they have a very large demographic of people that spends a lot of money on App Store purchases every year. So if you want to shove your product in the middle of all of that attention, Apple's going to want a cut of that. And that's normal. In fact, like Walmart and grocery stores take more like 50%. 30% is actually pretty standard. 30% is pretty good. On YouTube, they take 45% of my ad revenue. So all the ads you guys watch when you see my live streams or my videos, the thing is, in this case, there really is no other cheap shop to put your product in. Well, there's the Google one. And the third option is for you to try to build out your own smartphone and your own app store. But that's obviously going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, and most people probably don't have the resources to do that. But if you're admitting that you don't have the resources to do that, and that's going to take too much time and it's not really feasible, then I think it's understandable that there would be a revenue cut. That's why we have revenue cuts, is because the companies that did take the risk, the companies that did put in the investment to build out an app store and build out a whole market where people are comfortable spending their money, that took a lot of time and attention. So They want to be rewarded for that risk, and they want to be rewarded for that time and attention they put into it. So that's why revenue cuts exist. I think it makes sense. Like I accept the 45% revenue cut that YouTube takes because they cover the hosting cost, and I'm putting my videos on a platform where a lot of people watch videos. So if I were to make my own website called DrewTube and start putting my videos on there, would that get as much success as I just putting them on YouTube? No, of course not. I don't get how nobody really complains about the Play Store having a 30% cut, but will complain about Apple having the same cut and even lower for most devs. Yeah, if you make less than $1 million a year, it's 15%, which I think is actually really, really fair for all of the App Store hosting and maintenance they do. 50% is incredibly fair, especially for everybody under $1 million a year. I think it's perfectly justifiable, but they should do what Android does, offer sideloading, but make it have to follow certain steps to do it, make it hard enough that only people that know will do it. They could, but again, Google does it, and it hasn't proven to have much success. So what's the incentive? If anything, you just increase the likelihood of scam apps and malware, and then people are less comfortable spending money. So if they had proof of it being more effective, then I'd be for it, but they don't. So it's just like, I agree. If they were forced to, that's how I would do it too. If a government mandate said you have to allow this, then I would make it very complicated and very knowledgeable to turn on. Like, it wouldn't just turn on easily. That way, average consumers or elderly people wouldn't accidentally be downloading apps from the wrong places and that type of thing. I just helping my grandma get through a virus a couple weeks ago. Oh my God. Because she doesn't have a Mac. She wants to have the same computer she's had for like 15 years. It's a really old PC, and she called me on the phone, and it was telling her to enter her Social Security, and that all of her data was about to be erased, and she didn't know what to do. And she had asked if I ever had this problem, and I was like, "No, Grandma, I use a Mac." But no, I didn't say that. I was trying to help her through it, but just that type of thing is so frustrating and very common if you don't have a very closed, regulated, thought-out app store. I think it's outrageous that Epic needs to invest tons of time, money into development. Then Apple is like, well, we're going to take X% for being here. Apple should charge a fee or App Store space then. Wait, what? They do charge. We're going to take X%. Yeah, it's 30. I mean, it's the same thing with the birdhouses, is what I'm trying to say. E-Upload Super Chat. It says this was paid for using in-app purchases, so Apple gets 16.5 KR of this. It's true. There's all kinds of cuts, and then YouTube gets another 30%, but it's still more than I would have made over on Twitch. So sometimes you got to put up with the fees to be on the more popular platform. That's just how it works. All of these discussions of forcing Apple to allow sideloading only happens among techies. Most people couldn't care less about sideloading. Everyone else has no problem going through the App Store. Yeah, I think that's true. Most people don't even know what that subject is about or care. And if it changed, they probably wouldn't know or care either. Just saying that there's an argument to be made about monopoly. Thanks for the content. Just don't want to be too antagonistic. No, I think there's an argument to be made. You just need proof. That's all I'm saying. I need some proof that lowering the cut would result in a better platform, because so far all the platforms with lower cuts don't do as well. Steam is 30%, Microsoft is 30%, Nintendo is 30%, Sony is 30%. Pretty much the only store that's not 30 is Epic, and people don't use the Epic game store as much as Steam and the other guys. So you need proof. So far it's not working. If it's a better way to do it, all people would know about it. Yeah, it's like if it resulted in a better community as a whole, I think more companies would do it. Epic charges people a percent of the sale of every game made using Unreal Engine. After 1 million, by their own logic, they should allow people to use Unreal Engine for free. Yeah, they don't want you thinking about that. No, this is an Apple problem. It's not them. They're fair. Of course. Also, the government definitely should not be involved. They would just make things worse. I agree. I'm kind of under the viewpoint of like pretty much anything you ask the government to do, they're going to do in the worst possible way. That's just statistically what I've seen. That's why I'm like, let's, I think there's a lot of people that suggest the government should do things because in their ideal world it would work great. But they always forget that anytime the government does anything, they butcher it and they do a terrible job at it. It's like, go to the DMV. Look at the Postal Service. Go look at that stuff. And then before you say the government should do X, Y, Z, imagine those people running those services. It's like not a good idea. I don't think Epic will win either, personally. I do believe 30% is too much, regardless of the platform. I think at minimum it should be 5% and at maximum 10%. Again, just show me where there's proof of the cut being lower and the community doing better. That's all I'm asking. If you had evidence of that showed, okay, people spend more money here, but the services are better, people are more comfortable with this platform, and the cut is lower, then by all means show me. But so far it's all speculative. It's all just people saying, I bet it would be, but there's no proof. I don't think there's probably a 10% chance of Epic winning. It's not high. Even if it's lower, you'll get people complaining it's too high. Yeah, if you guys go back, watch when Steve Jobs announced that the App Store revenue cut would be 30%. The audience cheered. Everyone was clapping because that was much better than what people were anticipating. And in other marketplaces, it's been far worse than that. Like in grocery stores and music labels and stuff, it's more like 40, 50. So the fact that Apple went 30, people were amazed by that. So if you lower it more, they're just going to say it should be gone entirely. It's not, it wouldn't solve anything. I think what Apple did was probably the safest way to go. They said 15% for everybody under $1 million, which I think is totally fair. And if you're making over $1 million, you can afford the 30%. So, the U.S. interstate highway system was a huge success, and that was government funded. Okay, like 70 years ago. That was a long time ago. Maybe just the interstate system. I don't know. A lot of the interstate still kind of sucks, I'll be honest. Apple could have easily said 60% and people would have still used it. Yeah, you're probably right, Benji. Government programs can be successful. They just have to be well thought out. The problem is with term limits, nobody has time to figure out details. Yeah, well, I don't know if we should get rid of term limits for that reason, but yeah, it's messy. It's like by design meant to be slow. Let's see. 5%, in my eyes, they're justified to cut more. If it wasn't for Apple, you wouldn't get any money in the first place. That's true. There'd be whole businesses and whole companies that wouldn't exist if Apple didn't make an app store. Anyway, we make a digital item once and sell it like 1 billion times over. It would be different if it was a physical thing, raw materials. Yeah, you design one copy of Fortnite and then you can distribute an infinite amount of it. So I thought 30% was fine. It'd be different if Apple was charging way more than everybody else or something, but they're not. Anyway, I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate you all for tuning in. It's an interesting subject, and I like going back and forth about it, but hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and happy August. It's almost September, guys. iPhone season right around the corner. Thank you all for watching. This is your Apple Sheep here. See you all in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.